Two more wins. Two more wins. And the Indiana Fever is headed to the WNBA Finals. Let that sink in for a second. The Indiana Fever only need to win 2 more games, and they will be in the WNBA Finals. And they stole the first of 3 today against the Las Vegas Aces, beating them 89-73. A very convincing win.
The WNBA has a massive problem, and it's a nightmare scenario they never saw coming. For months, the script seemed written, a final showdown between the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty, the 2 super teams destined for a collision course. But that script is being ripped to shreds by the one team everyone wrote off, the one team considered a mere stepping stone. The Indiana Fever are just 2 wins from the WNBA Finals, and they're doing it without their superstar rookie, Caitlin Clark. The league isn't just nervous, they are in a full-blown panic.
Fever at the Aces in Las Vegas on their home court with their home referees. The Indiana Fever pulled off this victory, and I feel like I'm one of the only people, or at least aside from the mainstream media, who truly thinks that the Indiana Fever can pull this off. Do you remember a couple days ago on ESPN, they were saying like the chances that the teams had to make it to the finals or to win a championship, and it was 5 teams: Lynx, the Aces, Mercury, the Liberty, and the Indiana Fever. And they had the Indiana Fever as the lowest chances of winning the WNBA final.
What just happened in Las Vegas wasn't just a win, it was a public dismantling of a so-called dynasty. The Fever didn't just sneak by, they walked into the home of the defending champions and delivered a 16-point beatdown that felt more like the final score of 89-73 doesn't even tell the full story of the domination. Indiana controlled the pace, exposed every single weakness, and made the mighty Aces look completely lost and disoriented on their own floor. This wasn't a lucky night or a fluke performance. It was a cold, calculated statement that the power balance in the WNBA is about to violently shift.
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, our group has seen it all. We wanted to come in and be the aggressor right away to make sure that we were dictating on the defensive end, and we were dictating from a pace standpoint. They're champions for a reason. We knew that they were going to make runs. They made a big one in the third, and we responded with a big one. I'm proud of our team. It's one game. It's a long series, so we got to keep the main thing. But to come in here and to be able to steal this one was big for us.
This entire run is fueled by months of accumulated disrespect. Remember when the league and the media gave Indiana the lowest possible odds of winning a title, treating them like a cute sideshow? Remember when the Olympic Committee publicly declared that Caitlin Clark, the biggest draw in the sport, wasn't good enough for the national team? That narrative of Indiana being the fun little story just exploded in the league's face. They took all that disrespect, turned it into high-octane fuel, and are now burning down the WNBA's carefully laid plans. The Fever weren't just happy to be in the playoffs, they came to conquer.
The team's ability to handle a game where Asia is not able to dominate, where would you guys rank your level of concern surrounding that, and how do you guys kind of fix that?
It's not necessarily my level of concern. I know we're capable, but not when we play like that. God forbid Asia doesn't drop 40 for us, but we had 12 assists tonight in 40 minutes, 12, and 12 turnovers. But you can start on the defensive end. I mean, clearly we had no answer for Mitchell. Couldn't even attempt to slow her down a little bit.
The blueprint to topple the Las Vegas Aces has been exposed for the entire world to see, and it's shockingly simple. Neutralize A'ja Wilson and watch the entire kingdom fall. The Fever's defense swarmed her from the opening tip, refusing to give her an inch of space. They forced her into a miserable 27% shooting night, baited her into picking up frustrating fouls, and completely shattered her rhythm. The moment Wilson was forced to the bench with her 4th foul, the Aces didn't just bend, they broke. What was a tight 3-point game ballooned into a 14-point deficit in a matter of minutes. The panic was visible on every Aces player's face. This wasn't just a statistical anomaly, it was a full-blown superstar collapse. You could see the frustration boiling over in A'ja Wilson's body language. She was forcing shots, arguing with officials, and her usual MVP swagger was replaced with visible agitation. The fever got deep inside her head. Every time she touched the ball, she was met with a wall of defenders who weren't intimidated by her status. They made her work for every single point, and by the fourth quarter, she looked mentally and physically defeated. A true juggernaut is supposed to rise above adversity, but the fever revealed that if you cut off the head of the snake, the body has no idea what to do. While the Aces superstar looked lost, Indiana's forgotten warriors rose to the occasion and seized the moment. Kelsey Mitchell, a player who has been dismissed for years as an empty stat scorer on a bad team, erupted for 34 points and looked like the undisputed best player on the floor. She shredded every defender Becky Hammon threw at her. But the real shock was Odyssey Sims. Signed in August as what many thought was a minor depth piece, she played with the composure of a seasoned general, scoring 17 points and leading the offense with an unshakable confidence that calmed her entire team. She was supposed to be a temporary patch, but she's become the steady hand guiding them to the promised land. The Fever's success goes beyond their main scorers. They have become an unsung hero factory. This victory was built on the backs of players who do the things that never show up in a highlight reel. Look at Lexi Hull. She only scored 6 points, but she finished with a game-high plus 24 rating. That number tells the real story. She was a defensive menace, diving for loose balls, disrupting passing lanes, and making smart, selfless plays. Then there's Bri Turner, who came off the bench and gave Wilson no room to breathe. The Aces are built around stars, the Fever are built around warriors. That fundamental difference is why Indiana is winning. And the true secret weapon, the architect of Wilson's nightmare, was Aliyah Boston. Her box score of 6 points will fool the casual fan, but her defensive masterpiece was the key that unlocked this victory. It was a textbook display of how to guard a dominant post player. She used her strength to keep Wilson out of the paint and her discipline to contest every shot without fouling. When Boston needed a rest, Turner stepped in and continued the relentless pressure. They executed a perfect game plan, proving that smart, physical defense can shut down even the league's most celebrated MVP. This game brutally exposed a fatal flaw in the Aces roster construction. For a supposed super team, they have absolutely no depth. When their stars aren't firing on all cylinders, there is no one on the bench to pick up the slack. Their bench players gave them absolutely nothing, contributing 0 spark and 0 stability. Meanwhile, Indiana's role players were making game-changing plays all night. A super team isn't just about having the biggest names, it's about having a roster that can withstand adversity. Right now, the Aces look like a team built on a fragile foundation, and the Fever just took a sledgehammer to it. This wasn't just a loss for the players, it was a complete coaching failure for Becky Hammon. She was thoroughly out-schemed and outmaneuvered at every turn. When Indiana threw their aggressive full-court press at her, the Aces looked confused and unprepared. When her star player was being shut down, Hammon had no counter-adjustment, no creative play call to get her open. She just stared at her bench, knowing there was no spark plug to save them. She was hailed as a genius, but in this game, she was exposed as someone who only knows how to win when her MVP is carrying the team. What we witnessed was a fundamental clash of ideologies that represents a battle for the soul of the WNBA. The Aces play starball, an offense that lives and dies by the heroics of A'ja Wilson. When she's contained, they have no plan B. The Fever, on the other hand, play true gritty team basketball. They move the ball, they trust whoever has the hot hand, and every single player defends as a cohesive, desperate unit. It's a battle of blue-collar grit versus Hollywood glamour, and right now, grit is winning in a landslide. Let's also talk about the elephant in the room, the whistle. Everyone knows superstars like Wilson get favorable calls. It's the unspoken rule of the league. But the Fever refused to let that dictate their strategy. They played aggressive, physical defense, bodied her up, and dared the refs to make a call on every possession. At times, Boston and Turner risked foul trouble, but they never backed down. They forced the refs to swallow their whistles, a massive psychological victory. By overcoming the perceived bias, they proved they wouldn't be intimidated by the league's machine. Even from the sidelines, the ghost of Caitlin Clark looms over this entire series. Her presence all season has fundamentally changed the culture and DNA of this team. They learned to play with a massive target on their backs, and it forged them into a mentally tougher unit. Opponents are still so wired to stop Clark that it creates wide open lanes for players like Mitchell and Sims to exploit. Her gravity is felt even when she's not on the court, and her relentless competitive spirit is fueling this unbelievable underdog run. The numbers don't lie, and they paint a damning picture for Las Vegas. Indiana held a team that routinely averages over 90 points a game to just 73. That's not an off night, that's a complete and total defensive shutdown, and the advanced stats are even more revealing. The Fever's relentless effort showed up in ways beyond the box score, with hustle plays and defensive rotations that completely disrupted the Aces' chemistry. This wasn't just about making shots, it was about imposing their will on the defending champions for 48 straight minutes. And now, the series shifts to Indiana, where a fortress awaits. The Aces looked rattled in their own building. Imagine how they'll feel walking into Gainbridge Fieldhouse, a sold-out arena that will be absolutely electric with fans who feel just as disrespected as their team does. Nobody is winning 3 straight games against this Fever team, especially when 2 of them are in that hostile environment. The panic is real for Vegas because they know their margin for error has completely vanished. They are walking into the lion's den. Now just sit back and watch as the media scrambles for a new narrative. You'll hear a flood of excuses that A'ja Wilson was just having a bad game, or that the Aces missed a few easy shots. They will do anything and everything to protect the league's pre-approved storyline and discredit what the Fever just accomplished. But anyone who actually watched the game knows the undeniable truth. This wasn't luck. The Fever didn't just win, they exposed a structural rot in the Aces organization. They proved that the defending champs are not just beatable, but fragile. This is precisely why the WNBA is panicking. This isn't just about one upset in one series. This is the start of a potential power shift that could define the league for the next decade. The Fever are doing this with Clark on the bench, and Boston still growing into her prime. What happens in 2 years when this team is at full strength, with more experience and chemistry? The league wanted a clean, predictable storyline with its established super teams. Instead, they got a hostile takeover. This story is far from over, and the old guard is officially on notice.